Hi there, this is your host, Debbie Carlitis, and I have an important update that happened after we recorded the following interview with Representative Barbara Ehart. On Friday, August 16th, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled to uphold two lower courts' temporary injunctions blocking President Joe Biden's rule applying federal civil rights law to transgender issues in education, including school bathrooms and women's sports. These are temporary injunctions and they only apply to 10 states. The battle over these changes to Title IX wages on, and we must keep fighting until the Biden administration's changes are abolished permanently in every state. Enjoy the program. This podcast is proud to be sponsored by Tuvu. Tuvu connects people, families, and communities on their values-based social media platform. There's no ads, no explicit content, just fun. Check it out at tuvu.com. No biological female should have to compete against biological males. But under the changes to Title IX, which President Biden has recently made, our daughters will be forced to go head-to-head in athletic competitions against boys. This puts them in physical danger, clearly. It also costs them awards and scholarships. Representative Barbara Ehart joins us today to explain what females are losing under President Biden. Stay with us.
You know, I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hello, moms. I'm Debbie Carlitis, your host, and welcome. I'm so glad that you're joining us again this week on the Moms for America podcast. We are here every week to provide a show that inspires, encourages, and educates you, mom, on all the important issues that affect you in your journey through motherhood. We want to invite you right here at the top of the show to always like, subscribe, and share. Please share this with your mama friends in your circle. We do cover some incredible topics every week. Also, if you have an idea, like I said, or another topic or feedback, would you please email me directly at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would love to hear from you. Also, moms, if you have not joined Moms for America, please join us. We are an incredible tribe of moms all across the country, a powerful movement here at Moms for America. We're uniting all across the country to fight for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. So important. Check us out at momsforamerica.us and join the movement there. Love to have you. Well, on to today's program. We are so glad to be joined once again by Representative Barbara Ehart. Now, Barbara was on the podcast a few years ago talking about her legislative work in protecting women's sports. Well, she is so needed on the front lines of this issue now more than ever, and she's doing a great job all across the country. Sports has been her lifelong passion. She played sports herself, and then she spent 15 years as an NCAA Division I basketball coach. But now she is a representative for the state of Idaho, and we're glad to be having her join us. Welcome, Representative Ehart. I'm so glad to have you back on the Moms for America podcast. This is our second time chatting. By the way, we become great friends too, so welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. I love Moms for America. Absolutely love you guys.
Representative, you have even spoke at Save Women's Sports events with us. You've done some special speaking around the country with us. You really have become a great friend and an ally of ours. And there's a lot of things that we're fighting for, let alone, America. Now we're just fighting for safety for women and just allowing women to compete in women's sports. You've got a fascinating story. I've heard it quite a few times, and every time I'm always just kind of mesmerized by um, the impact of sports on your life and what you've done around the country. So you're a representative in your state. First, I want to ask you, how did you decide to run for office? I don't know if I've ever asked you that particular question.
Oh boy. Well, let me just say that I was had decided to run for the Idaho Falls City Council. And I did that truly honestly because I felt like I needed to do my part to help preserve our freedoms, even at the local level. And I had decided after 4 years that the mayor and I maybe were not as compatible, and that one of us that I needed to, we didn't share the same vision. And so I decided to run against her because one of us needed to go, and it was me. But at that time, and I lost in a runoff. And by, I believe, the hand of the Lord, our current representative at that time had been appointed to the state tax commission. And essentially, you had 2 weeks for our county to submit 3 names to the governor. Needless to say, my name was chosen, and I've been elected 3 times since. So I don't believe that maybe the Lord wanted me to continue at the city level. I truly believe with a lot more to the story that I was supposed to be where I am. And so I feel fortunate, I feel blessed, and I feel honored. And I've
Mm.
been able to do some unique things at the
You
state
sure
level.
have. You sure have. So thank you for being a champion there and a warrior, clearly. So let's talk about we're getting into sports. A
Yes.
lot of us as moms, a lot of us in our own youth, sports were really important. Really kind of fundamental to teaching and learning how to be with a group and take discipline, all those amazing things with sports. But poor girls, it's under attack, and we don't know what the future holds. It looks pretty glim right now. But we Moms for America, you, all the others, athletes and coaches are trying to correct this. So for our moms that have just been hearing about, Title IX, there's going to be some changes. Is it going to be really as bad as you think it is? I would like you just to clear up what Title IX is. And then we're going to kind of go to your little bit of history because Title IX really opened up the door for you. So, Title
Did.
IX protects women how, and how long has it been? What's the history of it?
So, little did I understand in 1972, when I was 8 years old, that Title IX would change my life. I wanted to play sports, and you're still a bit younger than I am, and people don't understand that at that time, as women, people would ask me, as a little girl, what it is that I wanted to do when I grew up, and I would literally tell them that I wanted to play sports, and I was literally told that's not what girls do, and so I held on to my dreams. Not only was I able to play in junior high and high school, but I went on to play collegiately with a scholarship D1 at Idaho State, and then embarked on a 15-year Division I coaching career at 4 fantastic institutions. The
All
last of which,
basketball, all
yes,
basketball, correct? Yep.
all basketball. That's my sport of choice, and that was a phenomenal experience. And the last one is a head coach, but as Heavenly Father, I think, would tell us that sometimes he has other plans. And I left coaching and came back to the area, and one thing led to another, and eventually got into politics. Personally, I've always been into politics, to be always, that's been me. But I got into it personally,
Mm,
first at the city council level, and now as a state representative. And
yeah,
that I feel like Heavenly Father's opened doors and allowed
yeah.
me to continue to have a big voice on some of these issues like sports. But let me just say, I know we're going to talk about sports. Can I please say that even though this is about sports, it is, but it's so much more than
Right.
sports, because
Clearly.
it's been the sports legislation that has allowed us to continue to, or even to begin to have conversations, which now we have to, on the bathrooms, the locker rooms, on the sex changes, on the pronouns, on all of that.
Right.
It all
Right.
started because of sports.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to talk about this. So Title IX protected, it opened up the door for women to be able to compete and be protected, right? How would you describe Title IX?
37 words, pretty simple. And those 37 words essentially included activity. And it really just basically said that you have to provide opportunities for girls and women, like you do for boys and men. Now, those opportunities didn't come right away. Those opportunities were few and far between, but change started to occur. Obviously, lots of sacrifices. Women who had gone before me made sacrifices. You know, you had
Right.
maybe volleyball, basketball, and track. Those were kind of the three sports, but we still have that opportunity. And so
Right.
you've seen over the last 40, 50 years, we just celebrated the 52nd anniversary on June 23rd of
Mm-hmm.
Title IX. And we had come so far, and now it looks like we're going back exactly how it was when I was a kid, where we're, we'll let the girls do that, or we're not going to bother the boys. It's about, I mean, we'll put that burden on the gals. It's always been default that the gals had to carry the burden, and the guys got basically all of, I shouldn't just say glory, they got all of the benefit. So it's very frustrating for me to see things rolling
Mm-hmm.
back in time,
Right.
where it's all about the guys again.
Right. Right. Just absolutely no integrity for the sport for
No,
women on any
no.
level. Now, when Title IX was passed 52 years ago, I think you just said,
Yep.
it's faced a lot of challenges over the years. Is that correct? Why have they always wanted to compromise Title IX? Sounds so strange to me.
Yeah, it has faced a lot of challenges, but usually through the years prior to these last, I don't know, 10 years,
Right.
maybe not even that, Title IX, the challenges we faced were ones, I think, where we as women brought out the discrepancies, and then, administrations started to overcome them. You started to see same number of scholarships offered for gals
Mm,
as guys, and female coaches, their salaries went up. And I could go through all of that. But what we're seeing right now, I think, is really a byproduct of what we've done in society, where we're trying to, I don't know, live up to cultural norms, and who gets to define what these are, and where we're holding up men in all facets, but certainly sports as better versions of women than women are of women. And it's pretty frustrating to me, but I will tell you, and I know we're going to get into it, we have some victories. We
yeah.
have started to make some progress
Right.
here. Let me also say, if I will, that when it comes to sports, I have always felt, and I work with young men all the time. So I think I've seen the advantages and disadvantages.
Mm,
I think young girls actually benefit more from participating in sports than young boys do. And I think young boys must participate in sports. But what I'm saying, the advantages to keeping gals and allowing them, and retaining those spots for them, you will see huge dividends on the other side, including one that has yet to be put down, and that is 95% of female CEOs played sports. I mean, as simple as that. But I think for a gal's confidence and ability to even navigate with guys,
right.
it just is strengthened with her when she has the ability to play sports. She learns,
Hmm.
probably the biggest thing too, Debbie, is conflict resolution. You think you cannot
Yeah.
learn conflict resolution in band and debate. Maybe a
Right.
little debate, but you can't learn that in choir like you
Hmm.
can in sports.
Right.
So it's hugely important.
Right. I think all of us understand that competition is healthy
Yeah.
and it really does. You got to learn how to work with a team. Like you said, you got to learn how to give it your best. You got to
Yes.
learn how to play the game, and you got to learn the rules, and you got to play by the rules, and you got to practice, right?
You
All
do.
those
You do.
things. All my kids were athletes, and it's something that we were like, you know what? You're going to put your hand in the you're going to be an athlete at some level. You don't have to do
Yeah.
it for the rest of your life, but when you're growing and you're learning these
Yeah.
essential skills, sports really help. So let's talk about the Biden administration,
Okay.
the revisions, what they're doing to Title IX, and how this changes everything.
Yeah. Well, so as I said earlier, Title IX originally was 37 words, right?
Hmm.
Pretty simple. It was about sex. Obviously, it was about sex. Prior to Title IX, I think we had 5 to 6% of gals, now we're talking in high school,
Hmm.
participated in sports. After Title IX, and looking down the road, and like, I think it was in 2012, something like 46% of participants were
Mm.
were gals. So Title IX made a huge difference. It obviously
Yeah.
did. But when we look at the changes, we went from 37 words to over 1,500 pages. These
Think
aren't words,
about that.
pages, yes. And it's not the 37 words or uplifting words of basically allowing us to participate both educationally, sports,
Hmm.
etc. These 1,500 pages are 1,500 pages. Now, this is my description of punishment.
Mm,
1,500 pages, and not just for women. The Title IX Biden rewrite is about everything to do with all of it, from single sex spaces, obviously locker rooms, bathrooms, pronouns, the transgender surgery. If you had a granddaughter and say she was 6 years old and she went in the little girls' room, obviously for 6 year olds, little girls,
hmm.
and a 40-year-old man walked in there and you or someone questioned, why are you in here? That would now be sexual harassment on you,
Unreal,
not
right?
not on him. And so these 1,500 pages really are 1,500 pages of punishment in
Yeah.
every possible way. And what the Biden administration did was essentially a continuation of Obamacare. You'll find that now this is hitting education, and we don't have to get into what happened with the Obamacare, but they hit it in like 100 different places. I mean, it's like this secret DNA code all throughout the language in
Hmm.
trying to capture and change our entire culture and
Hmm.
trying to equate sex and gender as,
Yeah.
the same thing, which actually biblically, sex and gender are the same thing. But I don't know, maybe at this point we've surrendered gender and we're
Yeah.
holding on to sex. I don't
Well,
know.
gender becomes fluid and
Right.
sex is not. So that's where it all, gender fluid. So if you're gender fluid, you can be whatever you want, but your sexual organs, that still
Yes.
determines who you are in your DNA. But so, I mean, that's the obvious, but obviously we're not dealing with the obvious because everything's upside down. Talk
Right.
specifically how this is going to hurt women and put them in danger. It literally is putting them in danger.
Oh, well, certainly.
Give us some
Well,
examples. Give us some examples because I
okay.
know moms are listening. Okay, Title IX, so it's equal now. What does that mean? No, it's not equal.
No, no. I think for me, the obvious danger is the fact that we're allowing males into single sex female spaces. And it doesn't matter if, on this tour, which we may mention, as I've been out for the last month with Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon,
Right,
to
coast to
listen
coast, coast to
coast to
coast.
coast. Yes.
Yes, amazing. Out there championing women's sports and protecting women's spaces. Thank you. And thank you to that whole tour. You guys did a
Yeah.
great job raising awareness.
I think so. I have now listened, including in other events, but I've now listened to Riley's story
Mm-hmm.
probably 20 times. I've now listened
Sure.
to Paula Scanlon maybe 10. And I'll tell you what, it is heartbreaking to listen to how they were forced to dress and change in front of Leah Thomas. And to think that anybody, I mean, that there's no harm in that. It doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
have to be a physical rape, although we know that that's happened in Loudoun County. It doesn't even have to be that. It's the mere fact that we no longer respect girls and women, and
Mm-hmm.
that we're telling them that you're not important enough. Leah or the man is important enough, and you
Right.
shall and change in front of him. You shall expose yourself. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you're a Christian woman, you're a married woman.
Right.
Paula Scanlon will tell you right now, she had already experienced sexual abuse, and it didn't matter. You know, they told her emotional blackmail. You need counseling to Paula.
Right.
So this is
It's
the
always somebody
harm,
else's
Debbie.
fault. When you hear, and I'm just doubling back on what you said about Riley, when you hear Riley Gaines share her story about how you have to slip into a swimsuit that's about the size of, whatever, 6 inches, and you move it up piece by piece, getting ready for this competition. This is like putting on another layer of skin, and it's
Yes.
very time consuming. And you have to do that in front of a male who has full all of his body parts sitting
Yep.
right in there. How horrible. If you ladies, if you've not heard Riley's story, you should. Look her up on the internet, listen to her story because she got robbed, just like so many of these other women. So we've got women changing in front of men. We've got men in in their spaces. That's not safe. That's horrific. And then you also have men just literally stealing scholarships and
Yes.
any type of. And then you've got also the danger. I remember in
Yes.
our interview, you talked about men and women going up against each other in the basketball field and really aggressive sports like that. That's dangerous.
Well, and we've already had some accidents
Yeah.
on this tour. We also had Peyton McNabb. Peyton was the young lady, the high school senior in North Carolina who playing volleyball, was hit in the head, knocked unconscious, ended up with the brain bleed and paralysis on her right side by the man, the boy that hit her in the head. I know I did an interview after the guy that was playing basketball back east. I forget exactly where, and he ended up injuring three of the gals. And I'm just telling you, we have mostly experienced track and swimming, but we know the guys are coming in all these other sports, and basketball is a physical sport. It is a contact
Yeah,
sport
that's what my
for
boys
women.
played.
Yep, and that contact sport is going to be incredibly harmful and hurtful. We already can see what happens when the guys get a play on a lower net against the girls, and it's been happening around the country. They hit that ball so
Mhm.
hard you can't prep for it, and to get hit in the head with it. And with basketball, more and more injuries are coming because, quite frankly, what I think I'd shared with you is when I was coaching collegiately, we would have guys practice squad. It's common throughout all D1 schools, and I think probably mostly D2 schools. So we had guys who would run and our gals would play against because the guys obviously were better. There were times that I had to just blow the whistle and pull the guys back and say, quit blocking their shots, quit stealing the ball, quit, and these were not the guys that had been cut from the university team or had been
Right.
all
These weren't,
stars.
yeah, the bottom of
Yeah,
the barrel athletes that now are
yeah,
going to go into the women's sports, the girls' sports, and, be the heroes,
yeah,
fake
they
heroes.
were just run-of-the-mill guys, and so as
Right.
practice players, they weren't even the all-stars, and they were better than our gals. So, of course, if they decided they wanted to try out, they easily could make
Yeah.
the team. So, yes, there's so much here at stake,
Yeah.
but culturally,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's a lot at stake too.
What a mess. I do want to even address the fact that as a coach, when you have a transgender coming in to play forward, I don't know. I'm not an expert on basketball,
If I
Barbara.
have a biological boy coming in to play,
Right.
yeah, on
You've
a
got
yep.
you've got the male coming in, pretending to be the woman. Now, what is the other team supposed to do? Is the other team
Yes.
supposed to bring in another male that's pretending to be a woman? And then why wouldn't you bring another? And then all of a sudden, your whole team is compromised. Your whole sport is right. You don't even know what you're playing with because there's no equal ground.
So, Debbie, I address this actually in a lot of my testimonies when I testify at state
Hmm.
legislatures around the country, because it's true. We all know about Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas for 3 years swam for Penn. Senior year decided to swim on the gals team. Prior to Leah, we had June Eastwood in our conference out here in the Big Sky. Right, it was in 2019, 2020, right as my legislation was being passed. June Eastwood ran for the University of Montana for 3 years as John Eastwood. Decided June's last year to run as June, identify as female. June annihilated the women in the
Hmm.
1600, which is the indoor mile. And then COVID hit, or June would have been the first NCAA Division One male champion in a female sport. Now, what I say is if June or Leah, if either one had decided their freshman year to run and compete or swim on the women's team, every single school in the Ivy League and every single school in the Big Sky and any other school in this situation, the coaches would have been forced to go out and find someone to compete as
Mm.
against Leah and June. And the reason they would have, Debbie, is the other side wants to tell us, oh, it's about the humanity, meaning to include biological guys on the girls team. It's about the humanity. It's about inclusion. It's
Mm.
about community, but it's not about that at all. Those may be subsets farther down, but the fact of the matter is when it comes to sports, Okay. Maybe not when they're 7 years old, but when it comes to sports, it
Yeah.
is about winning.
Sure.
If it wasn't about winning, then players wouldn't get cut and coaches wouldn't get fired. So a
Mhm.
coach, especially at the D1 level, in order to keep from getting fired, they have to get wins. They have to compete 100%. You hit the
Sure.
nail on the head. They would have to go out and find men to compete against the men on the
Mhm.
conference league. And then every other school that knew they were going to be playing them that was out of conference, they
Sure.
eventually be doing the same thing. It turned just like that. It's going to turn just like that because if you're a young man and you don't even have to be gay or trans, but if you're an opportunist, like I don't have the money to go to college. Hey, I was a pretty good high school soccer player, but there nobody's picking me up. I think I'll go try and get a scholarship on the gals team at the university. Why wouldn't they? We're allowing
Mhm.
it. We're
We're
saying they
allowing
can.
it.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, this is all nefarious, and no
Mhm.
one's thinking through all of the ramifications, and they're vast.
Now we've heard point well taken. We've heard a lot of these athletes speak out, just devastated. Devastated that they lost their scholarship. They were always number one. They were vying for one or two. Now somebody comes in like Riley Story or Peyton. All these gals had,
Chelsea Mitchell, the
yeah,
the
terrible
Connecticut
story,
gals. Yep.
right? Someone comes in, they steal their spot, they get the scholarship, all they've ever worked for, right? Like they said, and I've heard a lot of the girls say this: if I was competing against a female and I lost, I wouldn't care. But
Right.
the fact that I am competing against a male, that is devastating. So you have all that happening. Well, I just want to know. Now they're speaking out. We're actually asking a lot of the athletes now to speak up more. Like
Mhm.
Riley and all these gals have really been speaking up. I want to know about the coaches.
Right. Right.
They're afraid to lose their job?
Yes, yes. So, as you ask this, obviously I'm no longer coaching,
Right.
and I'm doing my part to help bring coaches in. But the perfect example is Kim Russell. She had been the lacrosse coach at Oberlin College, right? And she finally called this for what it was, and had made a simple post that girls are girls, and basically they should keep their spots, something to that effect. She got called in, things kind of boiled over, and she lost her job for speaking
Yeah.
up. And so she was on the tour also with us, but we're gaining some more coaches. Unfortunately, they're coaches who are no longer coaching.
Right.
Sylvia Hatchell, the former University of North Carolina coach. I was at the NCAA Final Four national championship game in 1994 when they won the national championship. She started to have a strong voice because she has a national championship. She was, in the ACC. She's got some respect, and I hope we gain some others. We've got some other
Mhm.
coaches who have joined us, but you're absolutely right. They are scared. And so, one of the things that this is doing, just like with Riley and courage, it's what I've said from the beginning, courage
Or
begets
just
courage.
yeah. It's
And so
contagious.
it is
Yeah.
contagious, and more will continue to speak up, especially as we keep pointing the fallacies out and people see the
Mhm.
danger, Peyton McNabb, and then the polling. I mean, this is polling 75, 80%. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it.
Nobody,
Right.
nobody, nobody wants it. So I
Mhm.
have I have faith that more and more will come, but you are right. And that's why we have to keep giving cover
Yeah.
and bringing people on board so that they can speak up.
Before we talk about some legislation and where you think this is going, I'm going to get to that, moms. I'm going to get to that. But I also have another question. Where are the feminists? Where are these feminists that were protecting women, standing for women's rights, and all about female power? Where are they?
Well, first, I do have to say that we've had some of them with us. Wolf, the Women's Liberation Front,
Hmm.
as well as WDI, and with Kara Dansky and her organization.
I
But
love
you're
Karen
right.
Dancey,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And
So,
and I
yes.
will say this too. I with the and we've been with a couple of women that were like, I was an ultra fem, I was a feminist, I was liberal, I was all this, but this here, this is just common sense to me. And I mean, when I mean the feminists, you know what I mean. I'm not
I,
talking the
yeah.
people that have joined us and have obviously spoken. I kind of just it's almost just this great irony of like we're for women, and then women are getting erased.
Yep. Yep. I I just want to make sure I point it out, especially since I work with
Yeah.
them all, so that we
And
recognize that
thank
they
you
have
to
been
those,
brave. Yeah,
yes, thank you to those women that have really stood up, that we would consider the feminists, maybe on the liberal side of
right.
cultural issues, and they are standing up. I'm forgetting about the Evie. She's the
Oh,
cyclist. There's a
yeah,
couple,
yeah,
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 and
Evie
they
too.
have,
Yeah,
and so I'm
yeah,
talking in general, and I do want to
right.
recognize the gals that
Okay,
have stood up because I just feel like, women are getting erased, and we just do need the feminists of the culture to stand up to some
you're right.
level and say, "You don't wanna erase the women."
Well, precisely, and yet they themselves, what the irony of it, isn't it, that they themselves are part of the group that's getting erased. They're helping erase
Right.
themselves. It's as goofy can be, and yet I look at them and I look at some of these and the other things for which they loudly stand, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably why. They're just sucked into this vortex
Yeah.
of goofinism, and I'll just tell you, another person who has stood with us and who was at the event was also Martina Navratilova. Now, granted,
Mm,
there may be a lot of things that Martina and I don't hold in common, but you know what? I am
yeah,
looking and I try to be that person that
right.
will look for the things in which we do have in common and then let's go forward on that
Absolutely.
instead of doing what the true left is trying to do and to divide us in every which way possible. We don't have to be divided, and we
Right.
certainly don't have to be divided over common sense. And I do think that there are more and more Democrats, I'll say Democrats in the old-fashioned sense, that
Mhm.
are waking up to the absurdity of this because we already know that the polling crosses Republican, Democratic, crosses
Sure.
black, white, rich, poor, you know, blue state, red state, none of
Right.
that matters. But as far as maybe known staunch, maybe more staunch Democrats, I think they're recognizing this has gone too far.
Yeah, this has gone too far. And to your point, 100%, this is not a Democrat Republican issue.
No.
This is a American issue. This
Yeah.
is, this is the heart and soul of it, just protecting our girls. And
Yeah.
women need safe spaces and they need a place where they can compete and thrive.
Right.
Um, so let's talk about some of the victories that we're seeing or some of these injunctions or stays across the country that you want to talk about because this is encouraging. We've kind of talked about what it is, what's happening to it, why it's just such a horrific situation, erasing or redoing Title IX or compromising it or whatever exactly they're doing to it. They're just demolishing it. What are we seeing across the country? There's some different states are stepping up, right?
Right, right. Could I explain it this way real quickly first? I've kind of started to divide this Title IX issue into three sections because it's easy for people to get just a little bit confused on
Okay,
what's
good.
happening. And so the first one that I view is what so many people point to is, oh, the legislation. Okay, that's one piece of it. Like the legislation, My Fairness in Women's Sports, where we have 24 states who have passed that legislation, 24 states basically standing up for girls and women in sports, with 25 Alaska has like enacted things through their education policy. So we
So
have that
have.
component. Okay.
Okay.
Then we have another component of governors, and I am so sorry I don't have the list in front of you, and that might be something you look up later, but governors who have stood up to say, hey, we are not
Mm,
going to enact anything that the federal government says. We are going basically 10th Amendment, states' rights. So that would be like Ron
mhm.
DeSantis and Abbott and I think Nebraska and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And anyway,
Mhm.
there's governors
Right.
there. I'm certainly hoping our own governor will do that. And then we come to now the injunctions, and so I see that as the third area. So
Okay, good.
while
That's a good breakdown. Like we
that,
separate can
yeah,
put them in departments here. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, kind of put them in departments because everybody I know are hearing they're hearing of the different things. And so while all this was going on, well, meaning we had attorney generals in a lot of well, I think all of the Republican states, they either banded together or filed their own. I think Texas did their own,
Right.
where they sued the Biden administration because this. Now we've known about this rewrite that's supposed to take that will be taking place August 1st. We've
Right.
known about this for over a year, and prior to that, we were all sending in our comments, right? Trying to,
Sure.
say, no, this is wrong. Now, while that was happening and knowing that the Biden administration was going to go forward anyway, we had attorney generals, and maybe others, but attorney generals band together, basically band of states and sue. And so Idaho actually is part of the first group. We teamed up together with Louisiana, Mississippi, and Montana, and we received the first injunction that took place June 13th. The next one was June 24th with Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Virginia, and West
Mhm.
Virginia.
Yeah.
And then what, just last week, I forget now, 6, 7 days ago, we got the last one that has come forward with Kansas, Utah,
Kansas. Yeah.
Alaska, and Wyoming. And I promise there are more. All the states. I mean, once that tide gets rolling, right, and those injunctions just start piling up, it also get. I mean, just like we talked, courage begets courage. No
Hmm.
doubt, I think these judges would have done it anyway, but it certainly gives them courage to continue to provide injunctions against the Biden administration rewrite. So we in the courts, we are winning. And what it's basically saying, and the last one that had just taken place with what was it, Judge Reeves? He not Judge Reeves, sorry, with Judge Brahms. He basically said he included, three other groups, including Female Athletes United. So if you're in a Democrat state,
Hmm.
then you can join in, go sign up well, I think by that time they would have had to have done it in the past by July 15th, and they could have signed up and even if they're in
Why
California.
would there be a deadline though? I don't understand that.
Yeah, the judge, he had put one on there, and
Yeah.
so
Because it seems
I'm
like that's an evergreen issue. I mean, we're next
right.
month, the month after that, we're still trying to protect our daughters. We're still trying to be exempt from this. And is that really exempt?
Well, I think what he was doing is rather than just he did something unique, rather than just staying with Republican states, with those, there are three groups
Hmm.
that kind of, tagged on, and he allowed them. He basically is allowing them to submit all their names by July 15th. So it allowed them to, allow more people to get on by July 15th. And I'm
Hmm.
probably not,
Right.
the in-depth of all that. I'm just saying to me, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant move to allow athletes, wherever they may be in whatever
Right.
blue state to join on. And so, but others will be coming. And basically, this is kind of also, don't you think, like the Chevron doctrine that the Supreme Court
Mm.
just ruled on? Because we face this in the States all the time. And we have really pushed back in Idaho. And now, just to make it simple for our people, there should only be two ways, well, in three. I suppose you can have executive orders by governors too, but laws should only come about through your legislature, right?
Right.
That's our job. The legislative branch writes
Right.
laws, the executive enforces them. Unfortunately, it's true in the states and it is true in the federal government that our agencies or departments at the state level have taken into themselves power to write laws, and they do it, through their own executive fiat, through rulemaking. And really, rules are supposed to follow laws, but they've just started writing laws. That's what this,
Hmm.
because this is through the education. It's a Biden
Rules are
administration.
supposed to follow laws.
Yes,
I
yes, well,
just want to go
yes.
back on that one. Right.
Yes, and instead they're writing rules that follow no laws. They're making up the laws, and that's where we get that fourth branch of government. They're just making up laws. They have no inherent ability constitutionally to do so. And so the Chevron doctrine is saying you don't have that ability to do that.
Mm.
You're just an agency. And that's the same thing that we see happening right here. I'm encouraged by it. We have the Department of Education writing laws that one don't make any sense, have no connect to
Right.
the original Title IX, and they're taking power into themselves. They have no ability to do that. And I believe they are going to get shut down. I believe this is all going down, Debbie. I am completely
Mm.
encouraged where we were upset and fighting and doing what we could when this was all coming out. I am
Hmm.
completely encouraged right now with the direction we're going and what's taking place and the pushback of the American people saying this is wrong.
Yeah.
And can I give you one more example of pushback that is also very encouraging to me?
Absolutely.
It's a year old, but you know, when the now we're jumping back to legislation, right? That has
Okay.
come forward in the states like mine. And in Alabama, they in 2021, Alabama also enacted fairness in women's sports, but only K through 12. They left their higher ed out there. But in 2023, Alabama decided with their governor law, they needed to protect their college athletes. So they included the fairness in women's sports for or for higher ed. Guess what? Something
Mm.
incredibly unique at that time when it happened. For the first time ever, we had 17 Democrats cross over and vote for that legislation because until that time, well, with one exception, one Democrat in Kansas, Democrats weren't voting for it. Once it became legislation and it became politicized and the ACLU was involved, the Democrats wouldn't vote for it. 17 Democrats in Alabama crossed over, 10 voted to abstain, and or it might have been 12 and just not vote. I mean, that's 27 Democrats
Mm.
doing the right, trying to do the right thing. Then in
Yeah.
Texas, same thing happened. 12 crossed over to vote for the legislation when Governor Abbott, I was there to
Yeah.
testify, brought higher ed.
I know
And
you
I think
did.
we
Yeah.
had 7 that abstained. So we're making progress with our Democrat colleagues, realizing this is absurd. We need
Right.
to start standing up for women.
Yeah. Amen. All right. We're going to go to a quick break here. So when we come back, I want to talk to you about the presidential election coming up. Are we hopeful there? President Trump,
Yes.
some of your thoughts on that and what moms can do to help protect their girls. So, all right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
What kind of America do you want to leave future generations? What do you want America to look like for your children and your grandchildren? Our nation is at a crossroads, and it will be us, the mothers of America, who will determine the future of our country. What we teach and nurture in the hearts of our children and how we vote will make all the difference. If you love God, respect life, honor family, and cherish freedom, then use your voice and be heard. We teach these values in our home. Let's secure them with our vote.
All right, we're back with Representative Ehart. Representative, I mean, we've really just talked the gamut here about Title IX, women, sports, protecting our girls, the transgender issue, gender fluid, sex, the whole thing. But I want to know, you're an elected representative. We're looking at an election. What's President Trump's position on this? We know what Biden's position is on this. What's President Trump's position? I think I've heard him speak to this, but I'd like you to talk about that because elections have consequences, good, bad, right? And we really have to be voting. We have to be aware. We have to know what our voice or how powerful our voice is as moms. So what do you think about this election coming up?
Hey, I'm excited about this election. I believe 100% that President Trump will win. He certainly has my support. And President Trump, from the very beginning, was actually
Mhm.
supportive of this legislation in 2020, right after my legislation had passed, first of the kind. I received, through our U.S. Attorney General, Bill Barr had reached out and had a couple questions about it. And then forgive me, I'm not prepared. I can't remember what it was, but they did something like a paper in support of the legislation. And since
Mhm.
that time, I think we've all heard President Trump say, no man in women's sports. I mean, he
Right.
absolutely is supportive of this because he's a common sense kind of president. So
Right.
yeah, absolutely incredibly excited to have him as our president again.
I remember when he at CPAC he had Riley Gaines come up, right? That 12-time All-American
Yeah.
swimmer, and he kind of challenged her to a swim meet. It was really funny. But I remember him then just saying just how horrible that was for her situation and thanked her for speaking up and traveling all across the country, speaking up for women and defending women's sports. So as far as these revisions, things being reversed, you said you're feeling hopeful. I'd like to
Yes.
know what you would say to our moms about what they can do or how they need to be aware. Let's just say this Title IX is a situation in their state. What do they have to do? I mean, I don't know. I kind of almost was thinking this is a whole separate conversation though, but we may have to have parallel sports competitions, just like we're looking
Mhm.
at, medical and, shopping,
Right,
places
right.
that stand for American freedom, liberties, rights. So I'm wondering what you would say to our moms about this.
I have a few things. First, obviously, which you and I had stated earlier, elections do matter. The elections do have consequences, and you've got to go out and you've got to vet. You've got to vet everybody, not just your state
Mhm.
legislators, not just those running for Congress. You've got to vet your city council. You'll get more liberal city council members because most city council, at least in the state of Idaho, it's a nonpartisan. Everything's partisan. Don't tell me it's nonpartisan. Everything is partisan. You've got to make sure that your school board, and if you have a say in your state superintendent, ours we
Mhm.
don't, but yeah, well, I mean, we do on the state superintendent, but not the school board. You've got to have a say in everything. But when it comes, know what your have conversations with your principal and your athletic director. Know what they will plan to do should the circumstance arise where they have to
Mhm.
engage in this sort of thing. They need a plan beforehand.
Right.
Get a bunch of moms, sit down, help come up with a plan, right? Don't just
Mhm.
give them the problem, give them a solution. Here's the one that I'm trying to tell more and more people to do, though. There are going to be times where you're going to find, especially if it's younger and maybe it's not school sanctioned, where you're going to be in a race. Maybe it's a bike race, a cross country race, something that is unexpected, and all of a sudden you find that your girl has to compete against a guy. Maybe
Right.
you knew it going in. Okay, but they work too hard, and at this point,
Yeah.
I
What do you
understand
do?
it's hard. This is what you do. You go prepared with medals. First, second, third, all the way to six, whatever it is. You get medals.
Mm.
And when that guy wins, you let everybody know we're having the real ceremony over here in 10 minutes.
Mm.
You don't participate in the false ceremony with that guy. Let him get up. I don't care if he's on first, second, or third place. Let him get up by himself.
I like
Everybody else,
that.
yeah, everybody else goes.
Take
So
back the
take
messaging.
take back the
Yeah, take back the
messaging.
award
Yes,
ceremony. Take back the
absolutely.
recognition. I love
Yep,
that.
yep. That's what moms. You can have those medals with you at all times, and then you be somebody be prepared. Have a megaphone with you. You do your own award ceremony.
Hmm. Because that's what I'm wondering, like my kids are now, 20s, in their 20s. I don't have to really deal with that now. They've finished college. I guess, I've got a 19-year-old, but he's not competing right now. But yeah, do you pull them out? Do you still let them
No,
compete? Do you run the risk of them being injured? I mean, these are things that parents really never had to
I know.
worry about. Do they ask for a separate place to change? Do you go to the school, go to the school board, make a fuss in the meetings? I mean, all of these things are just things that parents never had to do 10 years ago. We never had to
Yep.
worry about stuff
No.
like that.
No, you never had to worry about it. And it's unfortunate that we have to worry about it. But I believe that in our little groups, moms can come up with some real creative ideas if it's a matter
Yes.
of you right. And I know, and it maybe it's a matter
I
of
love
hey,
that
we
idea.
are going to compete, but maybe they are forcing a shared restroom. So maybe you come prepared with partitions and you're okay, we're going to be in the
Right.
shared restroom and we are partitioning. This is our space. You stay over there. I mean,
Yeah.
we can
And
get
don't
creative
right.
with this.
That's it. And don't put it past our mamas because all across the country, moms are standing up and they are being heard and they are protecting their kids and they're defending them. And so are the dads.
Yep.
We need to do it more. We need to be more vocal. We can't be passive in these battles anymore because we can see what's happening. And I think America sees what's happening with this assault on girls and just really the rewriting of women,
Right.
redefining of women, and in this culture. So, any other closing comments for us, Representative? Thank you
Yes.
for. Would you tell everybody thank you if you see them on tour again, and thank you to
Yes.
really to all of them, from Bethany Hamilton, the
Mhm.
surfer, to all of the gals that have
Yes.
spoken up and said, "I'm not going to compete with men. I am only, I'm going to stand for women, in protecting their spaces and their sports and their sexuality, who they are, who God
Right.
created them to be." And everyone that stood up, thank you, because you're heroes in our book.
See, that's awesome. This is my final thought because I agree with you. And you mentioned, I believe this is a spiritual war, right? And
Hmm.
you are all about moms. I have long believed this, even for those of us who didn't physically have children. My calling to be a mother in Zion is not diminished, and I believe that when you destroy the mother, you destroy the home. When you
Mm.
destroy the home and the family, you destroy the community. Hence, you destroy the state, you destroy the nation. It's no wonder this is a spiritual battle aimed at moms and aimed at women. So stay strong. And I believe in the end we win. And I believe we're going to have some big wins here in the next little bit that we can savor and enjoy together. So thank you so much for letting me participate. I so appreciate it.
Thanks, Representative. We love you. God bless you, and thanks for being a warrior.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Representative, for all the work that you're doing. Your courage is totally contagious. So, for all the mamas out here, thank you. Thank you to all the women that are fighting for the changes to be corrected with this Title IX and to really save sports and protect our girls. All right, moms, at the end of the show here, I do want to remind everybody to go ahead and check out all of our resources at momsforamerica.us, from our cottage meetings to our seminars, our webinars. We have everything for you, moms. We say that all issues are mom issues, and that is so true. So please go ahead, momsforamerica.us, sign up for our newsletter. That's how we connect with you. And we so appreciate you stopping by and joining us again this week. Everything from the kitchen table to Congress, for parental rights to public policy. We have it all. Title IX, this is just one example of the many issues that are facing us here in today's world. So let's keep changing our country one home at a time, moms, and I will talk with you soon. See you next week.